got John Christian coming to speak to us, who is almost a neighbour of mine, but not quite. He does painting courses on Dartmoor, runs courses, and he rides on Dartmoor, and he douses on Dartmoor. And I bump into him on many occasions, and we have very interesting conversations about various aspects of dowsing. And the rest I will leave John to say for himself, because he didn't want me to give too many games away. So I'll welcome you to John Christian.
No, that doesn't sound right. I've always called Joe Little Joe. Thank you. Thank you for having me to your august gathering here this evening. I'm always worried when I'm introduced, as I do sometimes in the painting world, as being from Dartmoor. I always have visions of inverted W's on my clothes and so on. But Dartmoor, yes, I will come on to Dartmoor quite a lot during this evening, and I have not escaped from the Princetown in the fog. Although I sometimes think if I did, I could navigate across the moor by dowsing rather than anything else. Now, this evening, I have not rehearsed at all. We're doing a little bit of a double act with John there behind the projector, and we haven't rehearsed it between us, so if it goes wrong at all and the usual trick of a slide goes in upside down, do bear with us, or hit John over the head. Now, I've called this evening my little presentation a personal experience. I would like to add to that a personal experience and some tidbits and a few enigmas. Now, I've got two reasons for calling this evening a personal experience. Firstly, because I believe that dowsing is an experience which is personal to each one of us, and if you like, to all other living things on earth. One ought always to remember that the pattern or reaction we discern is only one of many that might be worked out through different approaches to the same human situation. I don't believe that dowsing should in any way boost one's ego. I do dislike people who come along and say, well, look how good I am, I found this and I found that. It is not, to my mind, an ego boost. It's a very personal thing. And therefore I don't disclaim or disparage or deny other people's findings. There are many ways to climb the mountain. And secondly, my second reason for calling it a personal experience is simply because tonight I would like to tell you about my personal experience. Now, a few words then of introduction. Dowsing has led me on a wonderful, timeless, endless journey. I've travelled from Callanish in the far north to the Australian outback, to the west coast of Ireland. That's one of those round towers, by the way. And in spirit, to the plains of North America. Just see that. Rather a nice little picture. I've seen energy lines radiate at both. I have wondered. But more importantly, it's been a journey of understanding. It's been a pilgrimage, an Arturian search, if you like, for the Holy Grail. As slowly, very slowly, I gain more knowledge, a tiny bit at a time, I have, over the years, gained just a little bit of reassurance. Dowsing is, to me, a link with that elusive something. But more about that later. Now, my approach. I'd like to I quote here the words of Colin Bloy, who said that dowsing is a function of the consciousness, and I'll add to that, of which the mind is part. I therefore find it unnecessary to use aids. I feel uncomfortable using aids like crystals and stones or witnesses. I'm not criticizing, I'm not saying, it just does not suit me. Dowsing to me is something to my mind is the tool. My indicators, quite conventionally, are rods and a pendulum, and my preferred method, also quite conventionally, when searching, is to first map dowse before I go out and confirm it on the ground. My mind is up here, this elusive, very strong thing, is my tool, and I don't see myself as a metal detector. Now, I've been influenced over the years, as no doubt we all are, by people, by books, like The Sun and the Serpent, and Pie in the Sky. But chiefly I've been influenced by intuition, which seemed to take a great leap forward when about a few years now, I came to live on Dartmoor, or near it, very near it. Now, long before dowsing became a passion, long before I became a dowser, I had a passion ever since a small boy for history, prehistory particularly, and its enigmatic remains. Now the dowsing came together and the bricks were in place. Right, now, before I get on to the nitty-gritty, just one word, a little word of caution here I would like to put in. Remember, it is not an ego boost. I'm not saying I am right. I'm not saying any individual is right. So please, everything I say, or point out, could you in your mind just put the words appear, or appear to in front? In other words, if I say a certain line runs through here, could you prefix it for me by appears to run through here? Right, so when did it all start? Very, very many years ago, longer than I care to remember, I emasculated a poor innocent coat hanger, turned it into 2 rods, and held them out over a chalk stream in the Chilterns. Well, you're supposed to be able to find water with these things, aren't you? So I held them out over a chalk stream, and nothing happened.
Nothing appeared.
Nothing appeared.
So you remember John
Right. But in time, very short while, as I walked across a field, something happened. I had the foggiest notion what it was. Then somebody said, well, you're interested in stone circles. So walk across that one over there with the rods, with your wire, your range of coat hanger. So I went up to the stone circle. That one is up on Lewis. That's on Aaron. Fantastic, isn't it? And on Aaron again, the 2 are very close together. See how that is quite different from the previous one. Those are the white moor stones on the other side of Cosden Beacon on Dartmoor, looking towards Yestor and the high Dartmoor in the distance. Painted 1 or 2 good pictures of that too. Excellent. Still on Dartmoor, that's Langstone Moor there with the circle on top. So it was circles, and I walked across circles. But I didn't know how it worked, and I didn't know what was happening for a very long time. Then, through one of those events, which we call coincidences, I was taken to shovel down up on Dartmoor, up near Kestor, and introduced to colour quite appropriate for an artist, introduced the two colour. Or more accurately, I was told and shown that everything has a colour or colours, and that I could find so much simply by tuning in to the vibrations of the required colour. I now also know that everything not only has a colour, it has a series, a magnetic beat, if you like, as well. That came much later, though. The world changed for me, and I truthfully say it has never looked the same again. I learned, particularly, that what I was finding with my rods was not necessarily water, but there were earth energy lines, quote, which I now believe are magnetic lines and part of a magnetic system, and the magnetic field of planet Earth, or electromagnetic if you like, and that when I dowsed them, I found them, they are 5 different colours, separate colours in a band, quite conventionally, no doubt you all do it, and there are 2 reds, 2 blacks, and a white. For me too, this elusive water, I find it violet, and I discovered that energy introduced by, or influenced by us, is blue. So I've got energy lines, red, white and black, and I have the violet or purple for water, and I have blue for the energy that we have put into the system. Since then, I've recovered lost objects, I've found water for drought-ridden graziers out in the Australian outback, I've found burst pipes for neighbours in the frost, and I've located illness and injury in animals and humans, all with some success. They're all aspects of dowsing. But my particular quest is impulsive, if you like, ordained, spontaneous, and it has been early man's identification with the earth energies and the statements he left. It all goes back to my childhood history. I've pondered for long on the message for today's society, and I have to say I have been quietly, gently reassured. Now, one of my biggest breakthroughs, although I didn't recognize it as such at the time, was that tracks made by animals in fields on the moor, like that, are red, black and white, more often than not. And those tracks the animals will follow them, they will follow them with tremendous vigour, nothing gets in their way. That gap in the hedge has been smashed through over the years by sheep following that line. Go back. Following that line towards that tree in the distance. When you get there, you see that there's a hole there. Now, about 15 yards down that hedge, there is a large gateway which, to my memory, has never had a gate in it. Very easy for sheep to get through, but of course they smashed their way through there. I was learning, and it was a big breakthrough. Well, I didn't realise it at the time. And there's another little breakthrough I found too, that I take painters out onto the moor and teach them to paint. And they scatter themselves, they see something, the scene they want to paint, they sit down, they put their easel up, and they pour themselves a coffee, and they get to work. And I have found that when a painter sits about 10, 15, 20 feet, whatever, from one of these red, white, and black lines, that after a while, the line will readjust itself, go through the painter's position, and get back on course again. Little things like this I was learning, I didn't realise at the time, just how important they were. And it's true to say that I saw the world as being covered with a interlacing pattern of lines, a dendritic array. Dendritic, it's a lovely word. I found it the other day, and it means all sort of, whatever it is in your body that goes out to the nerve ends, a sort of mosaic. And I thought, well, that's not a bad analogy for us Dowsers. Goes out to the nerve ends. Dendritic array. Patriotic Englishman. I actually no longer saw the world as red, white and blue. I now see it as red, white and black. Now, I hope the stage is set. I've introduced myself. But before we ring up the curtain, there's just to say that there is so much involved. When I was putting a few ideas together for this evening, my great problem was what to leave out. I hope that what I have left in will be of some interest. And I have included nothing found or revealed by anyone else to me, which I think is only fair. So this evening, if you've got any bricks you want to throw, it's me. I've left the others out. That was my first proving. I'll go on until you get bored. And then perhaps after whatever your break, whatever, if you want to have a discussion, love to have one. Well, with a crowd like one, it's going to be marvellous. So, on with the show.